Welcome to our special storytelling program, where we journey beyond the gritty streets of the silver screen to explore the real lives of the stars who defined a generation. In 1993, the film Menace II Society premiered and immediately created a seismic shift in cinema with its raw, unflinching narrative about life violence and survival in South Central Los Angeles. The work was not only a commercial and critical success, but became an unforgettable cultural touchstone. It offered a window into a world that was often ignored, painting a portrait of tragedy and brotherhood that has lingered in the memories of millions. But behind those iconic characters, the hustlers, the victims, and the survivors, were actors with destinies entirely their own. Over 30 years have passed since the film shocked audiences. Time has etched very different marks upon their lives. Some climbed to the pinnacle of Hollywood. Some fought silent battles with mental health and addiction, and others saw their journeys cut short by heartbreaking tragedies. Let us now look back at the tumultuous, inspiring, and sometimes poignant journeys of the cast that became the soul of Menace II Society. Tyrone Turner as Kane Lawson. We begin with the heart of the story. Tyrone Turner, born on July 13, 1971 in Los Angeles. He was just 22 years old when he starred as Kane Lawson. He portrayed a young man torn between the violence of the streets and the desperate hope for survival. His role carried the entire emotional weight of the film, transforming Kane into one of the most iconic tragic figures of the 1990s cinema. His haunted eyes and reluctant participation in the chaos around him made him the face of a lost generation. However, the breakthrough that was supposed to secure his future gradually turned into a burden. The massive success of the film created expectations that were impossible to meet. As he waited for the next big role that would match Kane, his personal life began to unravel. Turner's marriage fell apart over the years, and the subsequent bitter custody battle left him mentally exhausted and financially unstable. The pain of his personal life seeped into his work, and as Hollywood shifted its focus to new faces, he felt the film industry slipping away from him. Even while securing roles in the 1998 film Belly, and later in Meet the Blacks, the pressure of rebuilding both his career and his fractured family weighed heavily on him. As frustration mounted, Turner's mental health began to deteriorate. The deep disappointment of being neglected by the industry he helped define, combined with the trauma of his marriage's breakdown, plunged him into severe anxiety and depression. But Tyrone Turner found a way to fight back, not with guns, but with a pen. Psychotherapy eventually helped him regain his footing, and he discovered a new talent in writing comedy scripts for Jamie Foxx and Affion Crockett. This discreetly paved the way for his return to the entertainment industry on his own terms. Today, 53-year-old Tyrone Turner continues to act right and perform in theater productions such as Jason's Lyric and Live while raising his twins. His estimated net worth of $2 million reflects a career built not on enduring flashy fame, but on perseverance, resilience, and the determination to stay afloat in an industry that once abandoned him. Samuel L. Jackson as Tat Lawson. Next, we look at the explosive presence of Samuel L. Jackson. Born on December 21, 1948, in Washington, D.C., Jackson was 44 years old when he starred as Tat Lawson. He played the hot-headed father whose reckless acts of violence in the film's opening flashback cast a long, dark, emotional shadow over the entire story. His presence became the spark that drew Kane deeper into a world from which he could not escape. But while he portrayed chaos on screen, the turmoil in his private life ran much, much deeper. Jackson's marriage to LaTanya Richardson, once strong and full of hope, began to crumble under the crushing weight of his addiction. Long nights spent in the grip of cocaine and heroin, unfulfilled promises, and growing emotional distance drove their relationship into a state of constant conflict. An argument at home followed him to the set, even as Pulp Fiction would soon catapult his career to stratospheric heights. The pressures of success and his personal demons left him painfully cold and detached from those he loved. Trying to save his marriage, Jackson realized he had to fight for his own life first. The recovery process forced him to confront the pain he had inflicted on his family. Rebuilding his trust in LaTanya required patience and painful honesty. Furthermore, his body began to betray the price. He had paid for those years of abuse. Heart problems eventually forced him to have a pacemaker implanted, a constant reminder of his mortality. The marriage remained strong, but only because they both decided to stay when it would have been easier to leave. Today, Samuel L. Jackson is 76 years old, still working, still going strong, and acting with the energy of a man half his age. He continues to work and support charities alongside LaTanya, proving that overcoming adversity is his true legacy. His estimated net worth of $250 million further underscores how far he has come since the days when addiction threatened to destroy everything. Larenz Tate as O-Dog. Larenz Tate was born on September 8, 1975 in Chicago, Illinois. At the age of 20, he played O-Dog, delivering a performance so gripping and terrifying that his character became the ultimate symbol of wayward youth and senseless violence in film. His performance brought a raw, unhinged intensity to every scene, instantly establishing him as one of the most promising young actors of his generation. However, breaking free from that iconic gangster image proved more difficult than he expected. Tate's transition to starring roles in romantic dramas brought enormous pressure. He wanted to show range, but when some of his subsequent projects didn't achieve the expected blockbuster success, the financial burden quietly took its toll on his life. Even with the stability of his marriage to Thomasina Parrott, the loss of loved ones and his own experiences with racial discrimination in Hollywood left deep emotional scars. Each setback tested his mental resilience as he took on culturally significant projects like Love Jones and later the hit series Power. Despite the hardships and the industry's desire to box him in, Tate continued to move forward, grappling with personal pain and the challenges of a fickle business. The frustration of stereotypes continued to haunt him, and juggling rising expectations with the responsibility of fatherhood forced him into long periods of introspection. Yet he persevered, turning his pain into motivation, taking on producing roles and using his influence to raise awareness for sickle cell anemia, a cause close to his heart. Today, 50-year-old Larenz Tate still regularly appears in films and television, defying age and expectation. While raising 4 children with Thomasina, his estimated net worth of $45 million reflects decades of dedication, discipline, and determination to carve out a niche for himself in Hollywood, proving he is far more than the O-Dog character that launched his career. Clifton Powell as Chauncey. Clifton Powell was born on March 16, 1956 in Washington, D.C. At the age of 36, he played Chauncey, bringing an edgy, unpredictable energy to this film by portraying a character driven by jealousy and betrayal. His role made Chauncey one of the most memorable supporting characters in the story. However, Powell's life, despite these memorable roles, was full of complex stresses. Over time, he was steadily given supporting roles or typecast as the villain, and the lack of leading roles generated constant financial pressure. Even with the unwavering support of his wife, Kimberly, the emotional burden of being pigeonholed deepened his insecurities. These chaotic moments quietly crept into the background of his work, making themselves felt whenever his career stalled. Despite the challenges, he kept moving forward. The struggle to balance personal stability with professional challenges often exhausted him, but he continued to appear in films like Next Friday and Ray, hoping that each role would open up new opportunities for him. 69-year-old Clifton Powell still regularly acts and plays supporting roles in films and television while maintaining a more peaceful personal life with his wife. His estimated net worth of $500,000 reflects a stable but challenging professional life, characterizing him as a working actor who has survived the trenches of Hollywood. Saphir as Harold Lawson. Saphir, whose real name was Reggie Gibson, was born on August 23, 1973 in Oakland, California. He joined the cast of Menace II Society in 1993 at the age of 21. Of 23, playing Harold Lawson Kane's cousin, whose brutal death at the beginning of the film became one of the most shocking plot twists and the catalyst for the entire story. His brief role added dramatic weight, but his real life was full of far more difficult battles than any script could write. Saphir was a respected figure in the West Coast hip-hop scene, a member of the Golden State Warriors rap collective. However, his marriage crumbled under the weight of financial problems, a custody battle, and the growing shadow of drug abuse. The fierce competition in the music industry further unsettled him, especially as his albums struggled commercially. Even as he held impromptu recording sessions and collaborated with top artists, the turmoil within his family and within himself drained and increasingly isolated him. Gradually, his health deteriorated rapidly. He suffered from a serious spinal cord tumor. Complications from this, along with injuries from a plane crash in 1992 and years of addiction, eventually confined him to a wheelchair. The physical pain became increasingly unbearable, limiting his ability to perform and stripping away his independence. In 2022, he received a devastating diagnosis: terminal lung cancer. The disease progressed rapidly, causing him to struggle with infections, become weak, and deteriorate beyond treatment. Safir ultimately passed away peacefully on November 19, 2024, at the age of 54, surrounded by family and friends. The cause of death was sepsis and colitis exacerbated by an invasive spinal cord infection and a final battle with cancer. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at approximately $1 million earned from rap music, small acting roles, and a legacy cherished by hip-hop fans. Charles S. Dutton as Mr. Butler. Charles S. Dutton was born on January 30, 1951, in Baltimore, Maryland. At the age of 41, he starred as Mr. Butler, playing a stern but compassionate character, mentor who tries to dissuade the young protagonist from the violent path he has chosen. His brief role exuded a quiet authority shaped by the weight of a man who understood the consequences all too well. Behind the camera, however, Dutton faced battles far more brutal than his character suggested. His youth was marked by violent arrests and 2 lengthy prison sentences for manslaughter and possession of a deadly weapon. He discovered his love for acting while in solitary confinement, but upon release, he struggled to rebuild his future. As he fought to return to normal life, the stigma of prison haunted him, damaging his career prospects and trapping him in a vicious cycle of rejection. This instability affected his personal life. 4 marriages initially full of hope crumbled under the strain, including his short-lived and highly publicized marriage to actress Debbie Morgan. Gradually emerging from the shadows, Dutton poured his heart and soul into acting, but the burden of his past never quite released him. Years of stress, an unhealthy diet, and the emotional toll of broken relationships led to a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes in 2000, forcing him to follow a strict regimen for the rest of his life. Even when he achieved great success with the series Rock and the play The Piano Lesson, winning Emmy and Tony Awards, his quiet struggles made each victory both glorious and painful. Charles S. Dutton, now 74, continues to work in film and theater, directing projects that reflect the difficulties he has overcome. He carefully manages his diabetes, stays active, and uses his influence to promote rehabilitation programs. His estimated net worth of $4 million is the result of decades of hard work, redemption, and the indomitable strength of a man who refused to let his past shape his future. Glenn Plummer as Purnell. Glenn Plummer was born on August 18, 1961, in Richmond, California. At the age of 31, he starred as Purnell Kane's father figure and a high-ranking gang member. He portrayed a man torn between loyalty and destruction, whose choices subtly shaped the film's emotional landscape. His gripping intensity made Purnell a haunting figure despite his limited screen time. Off-screen, however, Plummer's personal life soon began to unravel. Years of cocaine addiction cost him important roles and sent him into a downward spiral of stress, failed auditions, and financial hardship. This pressure took a massive toll on his personal life. After the breakup of his first marriage, the grief left him emotionally devastated. His second marriage followed a similar path of suffering, closing another chapter of disappointment and mental exhaustion. When his relationships fell apart, Plummer worked hard to rebuild himself. In 2000, he entered rehab and successfully overcame his addiction. But the recovery process brought with it its own setbacks, memories he wanted to leave behind, and career opportunities that never fully returned. Even in films like Speed and The Day After Tomorrow, he still carried the silent pain of someone rebuilding from the ruins of the past. Glenn Plummer, now 64, continues to act, produce independent films, and appear in small television roles. His estimated net worth of $15 million reflects decades of perseverance. Not consistent success, but a survival story nonetheless. Bill Duke as the detective. Bill Duke was born on February 26, 1943 in Poughkeepsie, New York. At the age of 50, he played the detective in the interrogation room, delivering a cold, calculating scene that became one of the film's most iconic moments. The character's calm brutality created a chilling atmosphere that lingered long after the scene ended. However, away from the spotlight, Duke's life was under a different kind of pressure. His directing career flourished in an industry rife with racial discrimination. The pressure of seeing projects fail or face hurdles due to systemic bias caused him profound frustration in his personal life. Although his marriage to Sheila Moses brought him stability in 2005, the couple experienced the unimaginable pain of losing their son in an accident. Later, the pressures of social activism, directing, and mourning the loss of his child took a heavy toll on his health. In 2015, Duke was diagnosed with prostate cancer. This terrifying moment forced him to undergo treatment and recovery while simultaneously balancing work and grief. Even while starring in classics like Predator and directing award-winning films, he carried the silent burden of loss and the determination to move forward. Today, at 82, Bill Duke continues to act, direct, and mentor young filmmakers through programs he co-founded. He continues to take care of his health and remain active in the industry that once tried to discredit him. His estimated net worth of $3 million reflects his lifetime of acting, directing, and producing, and a legacy of paving the way for others. Arnold Johnson as Grandpa. Arnold Johnson was born on November 15, 1921 in New York City. At the age of 71, he played Grandpa Thomas, bringing a quiet moral strength to the story as the desperate grandfather trying to save Cain. From a life of violence, his performance had a depth shaped by a hard, real life. The struggle began in his own home. Johnson's marriage had fallen apart years earlier, leaving him to raise his children alone and scrape by with small acting roles. The pressure of supporting his family on an unstable income was mentally draining, driving him into prolonged periods of depression. Even roles in classic films like Putney Swope Shaft and Rocky couldn't hide the loneliness that gripped him after his marriage broke up. Over time, the mental strain quickly turned into physical decline. Diabetes crept into his life, followed by cardiovascular complications that sapped his energy and made his work exhausting. While filming Menace II Society, he struggled with fatigue, pain, and an unspoken fear that his body was giving out faster than his career could sustain him. He poured his remaining strength into his performance, leaving a lasting impression of wisdom and weariness. Sadly, the journey ended. For this veteran actor, Arnold Johnson died on April 10, 2008 in Los Angeles at the age of 78 from kidney failure, brought on by long-standing diabetes and heart disease. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at a modest $500, a humble sum after a lifetime of work that rarely brought him the recognition he truly deserved. Jada Pinkett Smith as Ronnie. Jada Pinkett Smith was born on September 18, 1971 in Baltimore, Maryland. At the age of 21, she starred as Ronnie, playing a young mother whose resilience and gentleness provided Cain with a brief glimmer of hope and stability. Her character softened the film's harshness, but off-screen, Jada's life soon became much more chaotic than the fiction she portrayed. Her marriage to Will Smith, which began in 1997, became one of the most high-profile unions in the world. However, it gradually began to crumble due to the crushing pressures of fame, constant comparisons to her husband's, massive success, and a growing emotional distance between them. The turning point came in 2016 with an infidelity scandal, when her relationship with singer August Alsina sparked a worldwide controversy. The aftermath of this incident deeply strained her marriage and her public image. Even when she starred in blockbusters like The Matrix Reloaded and Girls Trip, family tensions continued to overshadow her professional achievements. The turmoil didn't end there. Years of accumulated stress coupled with a battle with alopecia areata, a condition that surfaced in 2018, forced her to shave her head. This came after months of emotional stress and unsuccessful treatments, challenging her definition of beauty and femininity. Every appearance she made, in interviews on her show Red Table Talk or on the red carpet, carried with it a burden of vulnerability she could no longer hide. And when the 2022 Oscars scandal plunged her family into further controversy, their marriage was tested even further when it was revealed that she and Will had been separated since 2016. 54-year-old Jada Pinkett Smith continues to work as an actress, producer, and writer while maintaining her influence in the public eye. She continues to focus on her health, raising her children, and coping with the separation or perhaps even the complete breakdown of her marriage. Her estimated net worth of $50 million reflects decades of activity in acting, producing, and business.